And we are live. Um, I was not planning on doing a stream tonight, but I am gonna do it anyways. And I don't suspect I'm gonna be doing anything musical tonight. So for those of you expecting that, and of course, why would you? I wasn't planning on streaming tonight, but um, I am going to talk about something that happened somewhere in the last couple of days and something I just found out about this morning. Because when I woke up today and I checked my phone and was looking on Facebook, I found that a mentor of mine passed a few days ago. I don't know the circumstances, and I reached out to his wife this morning to issue my condolences, and she said that we would talk soon. But I have spent a lot of today thinking about Bob Sheahan and the things that he did for me. And a lot of it is leading to is not the right words, but kind of play into where I'm at right now and what I'm doing. So I might work on music after this, but I think more than anything, this is going to be a story time and kind of a tribute to him, because I really have a lot of reflecting, or have done a lot of reflecting here in the last several hours. And I think that it is important to tribute people that help us get where we're going in life. And so I am going to take the opportunity to do that. And I'm going to tell a story that encompasses, I don't know, probably the last 14 years of my life. There's going to be some uncomfortable subject matter here. I'm going to warn you now. And it can't really be helped, because I want to drive home just how important the opportunities that he put in front of me shaped the person I am today and why I am doing a lot of the things that I'm doing. And to Linda, I am deeply sorry for your loss. If any part of this video is something that you would find useful at Bob's memorial service, you have my full permission to use it, in part or in whole, however you want to put it on display. I apologize that I'm not going to be able to be there. Where to even begin here? I guess 2011, I made some decisions in my life, and they were based on my current life trajectory and where I was at the time, because I was not in a good space. Financially I was doing okay, but I was living in a town that I hated, partying way too much. While I've alluded to it in the past, I do have a history with drugs and alcohol, um, which I'm not going to go too deeply into, but this has something to do with it. And while I was always, dare I say, responsible with it, not really. I went overboard a couple of times, but I had a lot of friends that were not. And over the course of 2011, I think I lost several people to what was the beginning of the opioid epidemic. And I lost somebody important to me during that, really important, and it really hit hard. And it forced me to make some decisions in my life, as difficult times often do, where I basically I got a call at work from a friend of mine who told me that one of my best friends and one of the people I got along with the least, if you could believe that. Truth be known, you can absolutely hate somebody and adore them at the same time, and that's something that I've learned over the course of my life. And he was a very, very brilliant guy, and he made a lot of money. He taught me a lot about what I do now for work. As a matter of fact, he was probably responsible for me to getting into the field in the first place. And one of the things about him was he made a little too much money, enough that he was able to take care of himself. He was able to accomplish his dream of taking care of his mother and paying all of her bills. And he also had enough money to supply a drug habit, which killed him. And at the time, I shared that drug habit, and it was killing me. And you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna drop my guard. I went to work one day, strung out after partying the night before, and I had been bumping a substance that we know is heroin. And I showed up to his funeral completely strung out. And I regret it to this day. And when I left his funeral and I saw my old friends who were all looking at me really strange, and they had good reason to do so, I went home and I went in my bedroom, and my girlfriend at the time was on my computer, and she was playing a game, and she was also strung out from the night before. And I told her what happened because I didn't have time to. And I told her where I had been. And I looked her square in the eye and I said, by August, I will not be living here anymore. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but I'm leaving this town. I am going to start circulating my resume in other states and other parts of this state even. And I am going to leave. And I meant it. And I did it. And I started cycling my resume out to a lot of places that I was not sure that I was qualified for. And when I did that, there was always that little part of doubt in my mind, like nobody's going to want to talk to me. I can't sell this, not even if I wanted to. And I remember putting in a resume for a company out of Syracuse, New York, called Systems Made Simple. And it was on paper the most attractive out of those jobs. And I knew that that was the job that was never going to call me back. Just knew it. But a couple weeks later, they called and their HR department interviewed me, and it was a pleasant conversation. And my application made it to the next round. And then my future boss called me and had a conversation with me. And that conversation went really well. And he told me to drive up to DC because he wanted me to see the office that I would be providing support to. And so I packed my bags and I drove up there and I did the interview. And I didn't hear anything for another couple weeks. And I got another job offer before that. And the money wasn't great, but it was better than what I was making. And it was local, and I didn't want a local job. But I took it because I thought it was going to get me further down the line. And the day before I was supposed to start that job, lo and behold, Systems Made Simple called and told me I had the job. And so I sent an email to the recruiter that offered me the other position and said, I'm not going to be there. And packed my bags and drove up to Syracuse, New York. And I met my future colleagues and the people that I would be working with for the next 5 years of my life. And I did my training there. And by October 1st of 2011, just after my 30th birthday, I had fully transitioned to living in Northern Virginia. And I would end up serving very directly the president, the CEO, and the senior vice president of sales for our company very directly. And by very directly, I mean, they knocked on my door and they asked for a lot of things. And I said, yes, I can do this, even if I didn't know if I could do it at the time. And that first year was really hard because I was out of my league. Didn't know what I was doing. I had never interacted with people like that in my life. And it was a very different culture. And it was a very different world. And I wasn't sure I was going to be able to make it because at the time, I did not realize that the giant pay raise they were offering me was actually a giant pay cut, because anybody who's ever lived in Northern Virginia or any major city in America knows that it is way more expensive to live there. And for a while, I usually was falling into the red about 2 days before payday. Spent a lot of time calling banks, asking them to forgive overdraft fees, which they did some of the time anyways. And I was really struggling to make ends meet, and I wasn't sure that it was the place for me, but I stuck it out. And moving into year 2, it was kind of like a TV show. You know, that first season where the fish out of water shows up and he doesn't know what the hell he's doing or why he's doing it, and doesn't even know if it's right. You know, season 2, there he's strolling in confident like he owns the place. And year 2 provided some opportunities that were way out of my element. You know, when I started at that office, there was maybe 25 people in total. By the beginning of year 2, we had added 100 seats to that place, and I was managing the infrastructure for all of it. And got told at the beginning of that year, your big project is we're going to be building out a new office because we've got to accommodate growth. One of the scariest things I've ever been told in my life, because I had never done anything like that before. And it was weird because somehow, and of course I didn't do this alone. There were a lot of moving parts and there were a lot of people involved. But somehow I managed to direct the infrastructure side of that project. And I got the office built, and I got to hire my first employee ever, which was also a weird experience because I had no idea how to interview anybody. Arguably still don't, but you know, here I am building out this. If I remember correctly, it was a multi-million office move, multi-million-dollar office move. I'm managing an employee, and I am hanging on for dear life because I still didn't know what the hell I was doing. But we got it done. We got people moved in by day 1. And by the middle of day 1 in the new office, everybody is up and working. And that was a huge indicator of success for me, because I pulled this off. And, you know, it's the senior vice president of sales who originally told me this project was coming, who is Bob, by the way, if I've not been clear about that. Hey, Patty, how are you doing? And here I am at the end of the year, and I decide it's time for me to go. And I take another position with another company at the beginning of year 3. And I remember Bob got wind of it. And he pulled me into his office and he sat me down and he's like, look, what are the problems here? And told him the money wasn't right. I kind of pulled off this amazing project for you. Sold that like the cure for cancer, by the way. And I'm still struggling to make ends meet in this huge city that I'm not sure that this is my permanent home. I think it's time for me to move on. And anybody who has ever been around corporate politics knows that it would be really easy at that point for him to stand up, shake my hand, and thank me for my service and let me go on my way. But that's not what happened. I gave him my 2 weeks notice, and about, I want to say 3 or 4 days before my final day with the company, I get told that the CTO of the company is flying in and he wants to sit down and talk to me. And I'm thinking that this is just some kind of an exit interview, you know, but that wasn't it. I got offered a substantial increase in pay, and I got offered the opportunity to be the co-director of the IT department for this company. And I did what any negotiation book told you to do, by the way. I'll think about it and let you know by tomorrow. My answer was yes before I left the room. And there were a couple of different stories floating around about how this came to be. But generally, it was Bob went to Ron went to Al, all real names, all the CEOs and presidents of the company. And they went to the CTO, and they went to my boss. And they said, do whatever it takes to keep him. We need him. And I'm not entirely sure that it was deserved. I'm sure that there were plenty of people that thought that I was going to fail because I thought I was going to fail. But they made the offer, and it was because of Bob that offer was made, and it was the reason that I stayed with that company for another 3 years until it eventually sold to Lockheed Martin. And because of that, I had opportunity after opportunity put in my lap. Things that I could have never in a million years dreamed were my life. Over the next couple of years, I think I spent pretty close to 6-7 months living out of a hotel in Austin, Texas, very close to downtown. One of the best experiences of my entire life. Salt Lake City, Syracuse, New York. I was just all over the place. I was always on a plane going somewhere. And it was amazing. And it redefined who I was as a person. A lot of the times I tell people I was never supposed to be anything. I wasn't. I, by anybody's count, was a complete failure. I'm a high school dropout. I spent most of my time working jobs with the least amount of responsibility I could possibly get for the least amount of money possible. I couch surfed all over the place, lived with friends, spent an inordinate amount of time sleeping on my own mother's couch, which, and somewhere something in me clicked, and I decided that life needed to change, and I got into the IT gig, and then I got into this position, and then other positions, and then other positions. And now, 19 years later, things are radically different from the way I saw them going. And not in a bad way either. But more importantly, I think that moment in time when I walked into his office and he decided that he was going to fight to find a place for me within that organization. That was one of the biggest things anyone has ever done for me in my entire life. Truly. because, like I said earlier, he could have just as easily stood up, shook my hand, and said, "Thank you for your service." And, maybe things would have been all right. Maybe that was the biggest mistake of my life. Would have been the biggest mistake of my life. I don't know. I really don't. But that's not what happened. And for a kid that came from nothing and was never supposed to be anything, that's a big deal. He gave me far more opportunities than I deserved. And that changed something in me in a way that has made this room and the things that I do now possible. Because I have had some very, very serious downfalls in my life. The ones that led me to SMS. I would repeat that mistake. The truth of the matter is that when I moved to Florida, I was pretty much right back where I started. As a matter of fact, the friend that I referenced earlier, I was pretty much like him. I had more than enough money to take care of myself, but my life was falling apart, and I had more than enough money to pay my bills, and I had more than enough money to put as many controlled substances in my system as I could possibly muster. And basically, it came down to this. It was a passive ideation of a certain stripe. For those of you know, I seriously hoped every single time that this was the last time and that I wasn't going to wake up the next day. I did not see any future for myself. And I took a trip down here that same year. And this room is really hot tonight. I probably should have turned on the air. But I remember going to see a friend while I was down here because I found out that he was living down here. And we lit a fire. And I was just kind of sitting there to myself. And I was thinking, what's the move? What's the next thing that I need to do to get things back on track and to get them going the way that they need to go? My decision was to move here, which it was backed by my track record of making a point of doing impossible things, which is kind of the core takeaway from my time at SMS, because I was always being thrown impossible things that I had no experience with, that I was deathly afraid of. By any account, probably giant tilts at the windmill. And I made this decision, and I decided that when I got here, I was going to get back into music, and I was going to clean the fuck up. And I did. And when you stop and look at it, if I did not have those experiences behind me, reminding me of what I was capable of, the ones that people like Bob put in front of me, I would not be here to make this happen. I'd be in an urn. And that's the truth. And that is the large reason that I'm here tonight, and that I am giving this 30-minute long speech at this point. Because people like that put opportunities in front of me, and because I took them seriously, and because I leaned into things that I was afraid of, which is something that I say all the time and people roll their eyes at me. That's how winning is done. That's how strength is built. And those opportunities are a large part of that, to which I am eternally grateful. And I could go into the family aspect of it because, you know, I, in a lot of ways, was very much in the Sheahan family. His wife was always taking care of me, always had me doing some special project, always. I used to cat sit for them. Their cat was one of my favorite pets ever. And I don't know. This was a lot more structured in my head when I was thinking about what I wanted to say. But get it in front of the camera and get the emotions going, which I'm very much fighting at this point. And all that goes out the window. So it is what it is, I suppose. But without taking the risk and getting the opportunities and then doing everything I could to take on those opportunities and finding success within that. That's why I'm not dead right now. That's why I have all of this. That's why I do all of this. And that's how I know that this is going to be successful long term. And I have Bob Sheahan to thank for that. Because he took a chance on a kid from nowhere that was never supposed to be anything. And not a lot of people get that opportunity, and I am extremely fortunate. I don't know what else to say other than that. Other than thank you. And whatever happens going forward, because all of the successes that I have behind me, I know no matter how badly things fall apart, I know how strong I am as a human being. And I know just how capable I am of turning it all around. So thank you. Anyways, this is where I am going to end this for the evening. To everybody who joined and listened for even a couple of seconds, thank you. Like I said, this was unplanned, completely unscripted. Had a completely different layout in my head than what I actually put forward on camera, but ultimately it's right. And ultimately it's true. And this is a guarantee that I'm going to keep doing this, and that I'm going to keep pushing myself, and I'm going to keep taking risks, and I'm going to keep going with the opportunities that are put in front of me, and that I am going to do them to the absolute best of my ability. That's my promise to myself, and that's my promise to anybody who watches this, no matter what. This is my future.